Sorry, I'm over dancing. Hey,
Good morning, everyone. Michelle beat you all here. Look at that, 29 minutes early. Good morning, little Carrie and Mama Gwen. How are y'all?
hello everyone. Good to see you.
Yes, it is. It is a beautiful day here in East Texas. We woke up to a little bit of fog, but that not too bad. Not to where it made it when you open the door to let the dogs out. Good morning, Sam. Remember to hit the like button. Thank you,
Thank
sweetheart. I
you.
appreciate that. And there's Tammy. How are you,
Hey,
sweetie?
good to see you.
Yeah, I was afraid of me moving back to my normal 9 o'clock on Monday Central
Mm,
Time, that it would throw some folks off. But yeah, Europe did their leap forward this weekend, so that meant Hobie Bingo and I were going to be competing for the same time slot, and I thought, no, can't have that. Good morning, Laura, and happy birthday, sweetheart.
Happy birthday, Laura.
I'm not going to sing for you, sweetie. Maybe Froggy will.
Ah, Laura. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Laura. Happy birthday to you.
Yeah.
I know it's not the greatest, but hey, it's something.
Mm. Well, you definitely don't want to hear me sing, so just saying. Yeah. Now,
You
back
start
when I was
singing.
much younger, yes, but
Well, you start
that's
singing. Lacey's going to too.
well, that too, yeah. Yeah, she definitely will join in, let me tell you. I mean, she's a hound and she's a dog, so put those two together and yeah, she's going to go
Oh
after it.
yeah.
It might be more of a barking because there's just certain sounds that she does not like, and my voice
Oh
singing would
my.
probably be one of them.
Oh dear. Oh dear.
Oh goodness.
But how is everyone today? Um, what's in your cup? What you hooking on or knitting on? Let us know.
Well, I like
We're nice.
always, as a drinking my coffee, my black Folgers silk, and got my hazelnut creamer. I'm trying to work on a wing on my
Hmm.
little woodland fairy. Now it's funny that she didn't use the same wing pattern on all of her little fairies, and I'm really
Oh,
not liking this wing. So I'm probably going to go back to the pattern that I put on the other one
uh-huh.
and use it because it it starts out in a little point and then just all of a sudden, boom, it blooms
Oh,
out, and it just looks weird. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
I don't like that
Good
wing.
morning, Kim. How are you, sweetheart?
Hey, Kim,
So yeah,
I
I
don't
I
like
know
that
I don't
wing.
like you that one.
So I'm working on a leg.
Look
There
at
you go.
that. Isn't that cool, folks?
Yeah, I'm working on a leg. So there's a foot down here, and I'm working on a leg.
And this
Woo.
is for a bunny. And I told her I just thought that was so cool because most of the time when you see a pattern on a bunny, it they
It
either
just
give
goes
them a paw
straight up.
like, yeah, and it just goes straight up. But I
No,
love
this
the
is
fact that she's really staying true to form on the little creature itself. So
well, it's got to get wider. I mean, you
yeah,
know.
well,
But now
especially if
this
it's the
won't be
back
stuffed.
legs, you know.
Yeah, this won't be stuffed. So yes, it's getting
Yeah.
bigger. But
Good
that's what
morning,
I've been doing.
Jimmy T and Blue. I'm so happy that you're here with us today.
Hey, good to
Would you
see
like for
you.
us to call you Blue, or do you have a given name you'd like to be called by?
Whatever you'd like to be called, let us know.
Yeah. And good morning, Heidi. How are the baby kitties? I'm going to
Oh,
ask
hi.
you that 20 times a day if I see you.
Do, do tell how the Maine Coons is doing. But it's good to see all of you.
Yes, it is.
I'm sorry I can't see the chat, but good to see you guys.
Yeah, she's not supposed to be reading, folks. We got 2 more weeks of this before she goes to the eye doctor and see what they can do for her. So the
Oh,
less
tell
reading we can
them.
have her do, the better. Oh, she says
I
they're doing good.
yay.
Yay.
Counting
Well,
down the
I'm
day.
going to see if Nightbot is awake so we can get our weather out of the way before we start
Yeah.
talking about today's topic, which is one of my Ashley. Well, sweetie, I will try to remember that. I may call you Blue every time I see you until it sticks in my head. So just, us old folks, our memory's not what it used to be. All right, in Dayton, there's fog with a temperature of 66. I have southeasterly winds at 4 miles per hour. And because of the moisture in the air, yes, 100% humidity.
And
In
thunder,
Christiansburg, okay, I was going, why is my zip code wrong? In
thunder.
Christiansburg, where Froggy is at, it says rain with a temperature of 55. She has 62% humidity, and she has wind at 2 miles per hour from the southwest. And our sweet Heidi, who lives in,
Fond du Lac.
there you go, conditions are fair
Remember
with a
the
temperature.
number?
Conditions are fair with a temperature of 58 degrees. The wind is blowing from the south-southwest at 8 miles per hour and 48% humidity. In Pea
Wow.
Ridge, where our sweet mama Gwen lives, conditions are sunny, 68 degrees. 17-mile-an-hour winds coming up from the south and 68% humidity. Wow. You're a little breezy today, girlfriend.
How is my humidity 62% when it is raining?
I don't ask me.
That's just funny to me.
Oh, Ashley, she says, for my Bible study, I'm using the Discover for Yourself induction Bible studies for kids' books. That is awesome.
Nice.
I remember that Bible.
That's wonderful.
Mm-hmm. And for Amy T. in Wadsworth, she is mostly cloudy with 61 degrees. She's a little breezy, 60-mile-an-hour winds from the southwest, and she has 57% humidity.
That's a
Our
heck of a wind.
Yeah. Our sweet Tammy in Hamilton, she is mostly cloudy with a temperature of 52. The wind is blowing from the southwest at 8 miles per hour, and she has 53% humidity. I kind of like that a little better.
Yeah.
Ashley's weather in Prior Lake. Where is that, Ashley? Conditions are sunny with a temperature of 50. She has east-northeast winds at 4 miles an hour, and she has 62% humidity. Where are you? What state are you in, Ashley? And Michelle, who lives in Marion, conditions are cloudy with a temperature of 60 degrees. She has 16-mile-an-hour winds from the south-southwest with 63% humidity. Wow.
Wow.
Well, we're going from either very little wind to very breezy winds today.
Wow.
But did everybody feel the cooling temperatures from over the weekend when that cold, well, I'm just going to call it a front. I know for some of you it was a cold front, but
It was the cold front.
mm-hmm.
Yeah. I do want to say right here in the beginning before we get too far into our discussion today, please say a prayer for Jason.
Yes.
That's Carrie's Jason. He's in surgery.
Yeah.
So if you could please say a prayer for him.
Yeah. It is 7:00 there. So yeah, he should be getting prepped, if not being rolled in, because at 7:30 is when they were supposed to start. So
Yeah, well, yeah, she did say he was in surgery.
oh, she did. Okay. Well, maybe they took him in early. Well, good. Good. That just
There,
means
well, he's at least in the back where she can't
yeah.
see him. So
Right.
he could be being prepped. I don't
Right.
know. But
Oh,
yeah.
she is in Prior Lake, Minnesota.
Wow.
Well, we have a wonderful woman that comes in. I call her the Jill of all trades. It's Crafting Adventures with Amy. Many times she joins us. Let's see, Laura in Oshawa, Canada. Conditions are cloudy with a temperature of 42. The wind is blowing from the southwest at 2 miles per hour, and she has 60% humidity. Oh, Amy T says it seems to be very windy here on a daily basis. And there's our Amy. Good morning, sweetheart. We have a young lady in here. Her name is Blunado. Her proper name is Ashley, and she lives in Prior Lake, Minnesota.
Wow.
Are you two girls close to each other?
Well, Princeton to Prior Lake. I don't know the distance.
Yeah, I know. And Tammy says, Laura, you are in Oshawa. I am in Hamilton.
I don't even know how close
Another little Canadian sister
there.
there.
But at
Yeah.
least they're in the same country.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know about all that.
Yeah. I don't,
That's funny.
uh, you know, there's even so many little towns here in Texas that I always have to look them up or be reminded of where they're at anyway.
Oh, there it
It's
is.
in Ontario, Canada.
Ah,
Well, then y'all ought to be pretty close.
yeah.
She would be about in an hour and 15 minutes south of me. Oh, well, looky there.
Wow, that's fairly close.
And Laura says I'm a few hours away from Tammy.
We only have 11 thumbs. Can we get the thumbs up?
Yeah. It's easier to remember to hit them as you come in, but as long as you hit them at some point or at least before you leave, it would be greatly appreciated.
That would be really appreciated. It really does help with YouTube. We really
Mm-hmm.
do appreciate that. Yes.
So I am going to go ahead and get started with our topic today, pencils. And y'all know me, I am
Yes.
number one, a math teacher, but I have always been in love with pencils, even as a kid. When I first had to start writing with a pen, I hated it because, you know, you couldn't erase if you made a mistake. And folks, quite honestly, the pen that I started with was actually an ink cartridge pen. We
Wow.
didn't have ballpoint pens. So, you know, imagine the mess that you could make with one of those. Yeah, so I really was a pencil lover from the moment a writing instrument was put into my hands. But I thought I would share with you a little bit of the history of the pencil, how it got started, why pencils are yellow, and just, you know, everything that there is about the pencil because it is
Or blue.
National Pencil Day. Yeah,
Or
there's
blue.
yeah.
Mine have snowmen on it. It's got
You have
snowmen.
snowmen on yours.
I have snowmen on mine. Mhm.
All righty. Well, you may need to follow the chat for just a few minutes because I am going to just to let me know
I
who
don't know
comes
my
in.
iPad.
Okay. All righty. Well, here we go for a little history on the pencil. And this comes from pencil.com. The earliest form of self-expression. Did you know that the modern pencil owes it all to ancient Roman writing instrument called a stylus, which, you
Wow.
know, now that's what we call our writing instruments if we want to write on a tablet, iPad, that kind of thing, or even on your phone. I mean, my phone comes with its own.
Yep, mine has one built in.
Mhm.
And then, of course, I have one right here.
Yeah, you
I
know,
like a
so.
long one. It's, you
Mhm.
know, easy to find.
Yeah, my husband likes one that has the soft tip on the end, you know,
That's
so
the carbon fiber tip.
anyway, scribes used this thin metal rod to leave a light but readable mark on papyrus, which was the earliest form of paper. Other early stylus were made of lead, which is what we call the pen what we call which is what we call pencil cores, even though they actually are now made from graphite, which is non-toxic. But the pencil history doesn't stop there. Graphite came into widespread use following the discovery of a large graphite deposit in Borrowdale, England in 1564. Appreciated for being leaving a darker mark than the lead, the mineral proved so soft and brittle that it required a holder, hence being wrapped in the wood. But originally, when they first started out with the graphite, they wrapped it in string. And if you ever get to go into a museum and see some of the older writings of books and everything, you might see a pencil uh, with cording wrapped around it. Later, the graphite was inserted to hollowed out wooden sticks, and thus the wood case pencil was born. Nuremberg, Germany, was the birthplace of the first mass produced pencils in 1662. Spurred by Faber Castell, established in 1761, Lyra
Mhm.
Stedler and other companies, an active pencil industry developed throughout the 19th century during the Industrial Revolution. Now, in America, these writing instruments, the wooden pencil, was brought over from England. We didn't have them here, but when we had the war in 1812, that was one of the things that were no longer imported to us. So, um, early settlers such as William Monroe, a Concord, Massachusetts cabinet maker, is considered to be the father of the wooden pencil. Another Concord native, famous author Henry David Thoreau, was also renowned for his pencil making prowess. And yes, he loved making his own casement for his pencils. He was even known to take other people's pencils and cut the graphite or the lead out and put them into his own that he had made. I mean, he was known for carvings, for elaborate designs, especially on the um, end on the pencil. Oh yeah, and to get one of his pencils as a gift, from his friends, his other poets and writing companions. Oh, that was something that, to have a Henry David Thoreau pencil was just like the
A
bomb.
big deal.
Yes, it was. The American pencil industry took off when Joseph Dixon Crucible Company, now known as Dixon, I can't say that word, and more pencil manufacturers started getting into the act and towards the end of the 19th century. New York and New Jersey hosted several factories established by prominent German immigrants, including Faber Castell, Ebner Faber, Eagle Pencil Company, later became Burrell, and the General Pencil Company. The first produced pencils were natural and unpainted to show off the high quality of the wood casings. But by the 1890s, many pencil manufacturers started painting the pencils and imprinting them with brand names. There's an interesting story about how the yellow pencil came to be, and we'll discuss that here in just a minute.
One moment. Hi, Caroline. Welcome in.
Hello, Caroline. Thank you for joining us today. We are discussing the history of the pencil because it is National Pencil Day. And as many of my other folks know, I was a math teacher, so pencil was my life and still is, quite frankly. Early American pencils were made from eastern red cedar. Now, this I did not know. A strong, splinter resistant wood that grew in Tennessee and other parts of the southeastern United States. So, to be nearer to the source, many of the northern factories migrated south and set up wood mills until eventually the greatest concentration of U.S. pencil manufacturers were established in Tennessee. To this day, the U.S. producers are primarily in the South. By the early 1900s, however, additional sources of wood was needed. Pencil manufacturers turned to California's Sierra Nevada mountains, where they found the incense cedar, a species that grew in abundance and made superior wooden pencils. So California incense cedar soon became the wood of choice for domestic and international pencil makers around the world. But to ensure the continued availability of this wood, forest workers have carefully managed the stands of trees, and timber companies have committed to harvesting the wood on a sustainable yield basis. Sustainable yield means that the annual growth of the forest is greater than the amount harvested from the forest. So the forest management keeps a sustained yield basis so that there's an abundant supply and the trees themselves stay healthy. Uh, the history of the pencil industry includes a great number of important companies and brand names from around the world. Many now have factories globally. Factors contributing to the challenging impact of globalization, resulting in a great shift of pencil production increasingly concentrated in Asia over the past 20 years, includes the reduction of trade barriers, the introduction of containment size shipments of good overseas.
Mhm.
comparative differences in raw material costs between countries and the lower cost of transporting people and information around the world. Okie dokie.
Wow,
All right.
that's incredible.
Mm-hmm. Now, before I get to this, I was sharing with Froggy, um, being a math teacher, of course, I required pencils. I told kids I would not receive any of their work if it was done in pen. I mean, I wouldn't even take the time to grade it. So, to ensure that my kids always had pencils, I kept pencils in my classroom. Now, many of them walked out, yes, because
Mm.
I tried to keep them on the honor basis in that if they came into the classroom and forgot their pencils, rather than, can I go back to my locker because I forgot my pencil? No, go get one off my desk. And I kept them in a little container, um, and yeah, I supplied them with pencils. I even kept paper for them in the back of the room. I got to where I was salvaging copy paper that had only been printed on one side. Maybe there was a mistake or they made too many copies. So I would put a box down there by the copy paper and I would say, I want to use this in my classroom. And the kids used them a lot for scratch paper. And again, I left my paper in my locker. Can I go get some paper? No, there's paper back there.
Nope.
Go grab it. Anyway, um, so in order to help kids, I had installed in my classroom 2 pencil sharpeners. And yes, they were the ones that were established on the wall. You had to stick the pencil in and crank it. Because I did try having an electric pencil sharpener once or twice, but the kids would just sit there with their pencil and do this,
Mm-hmm.
just let it eat it up. Or many times too, electric pencil sharpeners just give a little bit of the lead. Now this is a color pencil, but just a little bit of the lead showing, and the kids were just constantly having to get up and do it. So I just went back to having the pencil sharpeners up on the wall. So yeah, in fact, it was really funny. I would have administrators come in and look and see that I had 2 pencil sharpeners, white sharpeners, and I would have to go through. And of course, I would also get asked, what about an electric one? And again, I'd have to just pick up and do this. And they caught on pretty quick. But just a little side note about why I love pencils. Now, these are some frequently asked questions about the pencil. You may know these. Some of these I didn't know. But anyway, most
Hi,
of us
Belle.
pick up who?
Hi, Belle.
Good morning, Bill. How are you? Thank you for joining us. We're talking about pencils today. Most of us pick up pencils and lose them, but you know what? You can lose a pen or a hook just as easily, right? Without
Mm-hmm.
giving them a second thought. Pencils are a bit more interesting than you might think, though. Here are a few not so frequently asked questions about everyone's second favorite writing instrument, including the story of a time when pencil sharpeners were illegal.
Mm-hmm.
I was reading some of these questions to Froggy right before we came on, and I said, why would a pencil sharpener be illegal? But we're going to find out. When it comes to pencils, number twos are actually the absolute middle of the road. While we number our various grades of pencils in the US, the rest of the world uses a system of numbers and letters to describe how hard or how black a pencil lead is. An American number 2 pencil roughly corresponds to an HB pencil on the rest of the world scale. The lead is not too dark or too light, and it's not too hard or too soft. Pencils
Morning,
numbered
Paul.
higher than a 2.
Hi, Carrie.
Okay.
Hi, Carrie. Welcome
Hello,
in.
Carrie.
We've been sending prayers your way for Jason and you.
Yes.
And hi,
I
Morning
will.
Glory.
Good morning, Gloria. How are you, sweetheart? Yes, please keep us updated, Carrie, as to how things are going. Let's see. The higher the number, the harder the lead is, and often it's used by engineers, architects, and draftsmen because of its harder point. I do prefer a number 3 pencil, and I also prefer a thicker lead. The underlying logic here is that the harder point gives the user greater control of the lead. Yes, you'll find softer leads in pencils numbered below a 2, which are popular with artists because they can help create a wider spectrum of tones than one would be achieved by sticking to solely just a number 2 pencil. Um,
Yes.
but no, but you're probably destined for a life of hard labor rather than college. No, not really. It's hard to get a straight answer on this question, but there are quite a few reports from people online who messed up by using the wrong grade of pencil and still did just fine on their SATs. Now, I find this really funny because when we had to give standardized testing in school, it was always stressed that everyone use a number 2
2.
pencil.
Hi,
Um,
Alec.
Good morning, Alley Cat, sweetie. How are you? Thank you for joining us. But
Gloria
folks,
likes darker leads. She didn't care for the soft lead.
yeah, I am the same way. And two, I found that the harder the lead, the less smear that there is
Yes.
on your paper, especially if you're someone who writes left-handed. You're writing, and so this part of your hand moves across your
Goes
lead,
right
and
across.
sometimes can smear it. So yes, my daughter, she is left-handed, and my grandson as well. So I started them out with harder lead pencils just so that they wouldn't have that problem. But anyway, the general consensus seems to be that the SAT scanners will read a number 3 pencils mark just the same as it would. That's right. Some people do feel, however, that the harder lead of a number 3 pencil makes erasing tougher and ups the chances that a stray smudge or an incompletely erased mark will be read by the scanner and end up hurting your scores. No, it does not. And in fact, when you use a number 3 pencil, I will tell you that of course, with being a pencil person, I have to have a pencil eraser, that's just this one.
Yeah.
But the harder the lead, if you use a clear or a white eraser, it gets the mark off just fine. You can't even tell that you had used the number 3 pencil. Let's see. The west of the world. Oh, yeah. Thank Henry David Thoreau and his old man. When graphite was discovered in New Hampshire during the 1800s, Thoreau and his brother-in-law Charles Dunbar built their own pencil factory. The only problem was that New Hampshire graphite was very crumbly. It smeared and made for very poor pencils. So Thoreau, before he wrote about civil disobedience, he spent his time at Walden Pond and worked at his family's pencil company. He perfected the process of using the clay as a binder to make the soft, loose graphite hard and suitable for pencils. Suddenly, the New England graphite could be used to make a pencil that didn't leave giant smears, and Thoreau's business took off. By the middle of the 19th century, the Thoreaus were selling pencils with varying graphite hardness, which they numbered 1 through 4.
Nice.
If the center of the pencil has been made from graphite for so long, why do we still call it a lead pencil? Blame shoddy 16th century chemistry for this one. When a giant graphite deposit was found in England during the 16th century, it eventually found a new use as a writing implement. However, early chemists weren't exactly sure what the useful gray substance actually was. They assumed it was some sort of lead and termed the pencil lead came into use, even though lead was not even involved. I think that's kind of funny. Now, this is
Mm-hmm.
one I never had thought about. I don't know about you guys, but why are pencils painted yellow? Well, here we go. According to most stories, our pencils are yellow as a result of a clover marketing gimmick. In
Really?
1809, the Hartmut Company of Austria introduced a new line of fancy pencils at the World's Fair in Paris. The pencils were named Cochinor after a famed Indian diamond, and they contained the world's finest graphite from the Far East. They were also painted yellow, which was unusual at the time. Some historians claim that the Austrian company painted their pencil yellow as a subtle nod to the yellow on the flag of Austria-Hungary. Other claims that the yellow was an even subtler nod to the Far Eastern graphite in the pencils. The color yellow is associated with royalty in China. In either case, the yellow pencil were a hit, and soon after, companies began painting their own wares yellow in an attempt to swipe some of Hartmut's business. And does the little metal band that holds the eraser on the pencil have a name? Why, yes, it does. And I knew this one. It's called the ferrule, a combination of the word. mm, it's a Latin word, viriola, which means small bracelet, and ferrum, meaning iron. Have pencil erasers given us any common words? You bet. According to records from the 18th century, the elastic substance from the tropical plant got its name thanks to the common use of being rubbed over pencil marks to erase them. Since using this substance as an eraser required a lot of rubbing, people began calling it a rubber. Another name for the rubber from the same area that didn't quite catch on was called the lead eater. Well, yeah, I could kind of see that.
Hmm.
When and why was it illegal to own a pencil sharpener? If you owned a pencil sharpener in the early 20th century England, you had a hot little piece of contraband. At the time, the supply of red cedar that had historically been used in pencils was getting precariously low, so the government briefly outlawed pencil sharpeners in order to limit the waste from overzealous sharpening. Well, I can see that.
Oh,
Eventually, though, the mechanical pencil and the discovery of incense cedar's usefulness in making the pencil solved this problem, and pencil sharpeners became legal once again.
wow.
So there you go.
That is really cool.
Now, the only other little bit of history I have for you as far as the pencil is concerned, um, I don't know how y'all all started learning to write. But back in my day, being a youngster and just learning to write, my grandmother bought me the Big Chief tablet
Hmm.
and the really the big red pencil. Mm-hmm. And
That
that's how I started to learn to write. I started school,
yep,
and in fact, we had to have the big red Chief tablet, and we had to have two big red pencils.
that pencils.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the big fat pencils. Um, they discovered that at the time that in order to help children to start writing, that if you gave them something large, because this is how we start, we get a hold of something
Yeah.
and we start making circles and lines and squiggles and everything. Because children's hands are so small, they felt like that putting a thin writing instrument in their hands, they wouldn't have the control of their fingers well enough,
Oh,
the dexterity in which to wrap and hold. So that's why for many, many years, um, the big fat red pencil was so popular. I don't know when it changed. I know that whenever I started, my oldest daughter out, in fact, learning to write, I searched the world over, it seemed like, to try to find the big red pencils. Now, you can still find the Big Chief tablets. I mean, a lot of your dollar stores carry them. The You can, of course, order them. I think,
teacher supply
yeah,
stores
oh
have
yeah, a
them.
lot of teacher supply stores, and that's where you'll find the big red pencil if you want one. I'm just
Yeah.
saying. Um, but the big red pencil, they're not out there just for you to just stumble across and be able to pick up one. Um, and there are still many teachers that have gone back to this idea, especially in Head Start and preschool. They will give kids the big red pencil, big fat crayons in which to start. learning how to grip and to
Yeah,
hold. Yeah.
I used a big fat pencil. And our notebook was the paper pad was
Yeah.
wide
Mm-hmm.
and so tall and
Yeah.
had the big lines, the
Yeah.
solid lines and the dotted line in the middle.
Mm-hmm. So
That's
that
what
you
we
knew
had.
that when you did your capital letters, they had to touch the
Mhm.
top big line and the bottom big line. And then when you
Yep,
were learning your lowercase, started at the dotted line and went to
it
the
went
lower
down.
line. And when you were learning to dot your I's and your J's, that dot had to be above the dotted line. Oh,
The
yeah.
dotted line.
Mm-hmm.
I remember that. I did that in preschool and in kindergarten.
Yep.
Yep, I did
And I
both.
rem- and I remember you were not introduced to a ink pen until the second half of the third grade,
Yes.
because in third grade, we were still doing a lot of printing, but when we came back after Christmas, we started cursive writing. And oh my goodness,
Mhm.
I remember being so excited to start making those pretty loops, and squiggles that just to me transformed all of our circles and sticks, that made our letters, so to speak, and the humps. But when we got to start learning cursive writing, oh my goodness, I was so excited. Um,
We
yeah.
started cursive the second half of second grade,
Mm-hmm.
and we didn't get our ink pens until third grade.
Right.
Yep.
Well, we started our cursive writing with pencil. And then towards the end of the year, we were all given an ink pen. Like I said, now this is ink with the cartridge.
Yeah,
Um,
we didn't have that.
yeah, we didn't have ballpoint pens like you do today with the gel and the felt and the everything else. But yeah,
No, we had actual like click pens,
mm-hmm. No, we
because I
didn't.
remember students doing this, and the
Mm-hmm.
teacher yelling about it.
Yeah. Well, in fact, my very first true non-ink, roller type
Hmm.
pen was a
Hi, Jay.
with the clear barrel.
Hmm.
That was my first introduction to a non-ink. Well, I mean, really, what we could consider to be an ink pen
Yeah,
was, uh,
the big
yeah,
pen.
yeah.
Yep.
Good morning, Jay. How are you? She said, I started learning cursive in the first grade, but it stopped being taught when I got to third grade. So I never learned it in school with pens. Really?
Hmm.
Well, I am so happy to see. I know here in Texas, cursive writing is required, and it now starts in. Mhm, it now starts in the lower grades. I don't know if it's second or third grade, but I do know when my youngest grandson went through school before it became required. Our teachers in the second and third grade were were teaching the kids to write cursive. It was just something that they just continued doing, whether it was status quo or not. Laura
Well, they
said, I recall having the pen with the four colors.
full
Yes.
colors.
Uh-huh.
Well, they
Yeah.
had a whole what generation of kids that they didn't teach cursive to,
Right.
so they weren't signing their names. They
No,
were
that's right.
printing their
Hmm.
names. That makes it difficult because your signature now is easily copied.
That's right. She says, I can read, Jay says, I can read cursive very well because of my great grandmother and grandmother growing up. But at my age, I have to look up the letters when I do Christmas cards to make sure I write them
Oh,
properly.
bless you.
Well, my, yeah, just like you said there, my grandmother, my mother, we all wrote letters in cursive,
Yeah, in cursive.
and I remember the very first teaching post I took and was able to, now for my math classes, I always printed. Okay, I just did. But when I got to teach my first English class, I shifted gears. The kids came in, and I had all of this stuff, written up in the board in cursive and everything. And I had quite a few students that eventually raised their hand and said, "Miss, I can't read what you have on the board." And I was floored. I was like, "What?" Because I had no idea, honestly, that cursive had fallen out of being
Wow.
required. I had no idea
Wow.
about that. I honestly didn't. And so I had to print for a long time, and I incorporated into my grammar lessons teaching them how to write in cursive.
That's incredible.
I, I was floored. I couldn't get over that. Anytime I write a letter, I always use cursive, but I print on the outside so it's easier for the mailman to read.
Well, you should always, any address you put on an envelope or a box
Right,
should be written in very good block lettering,
right.
which is just plain print.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it needs to be very legible and easy to read for
Right,
whoever is delivering the mail or the parcel.
right.
So be very careful with that. Don't write it in cursive.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, it doesn't matter to the machines at the post office because all they're reading is the zip code anyway. But yeah, or the postal area documentation, whatever it might be. But yeah, it does make it a lot easier for the mailman
It
uh,
does.
if they can read the address and know which house it's supposed to be going to or slot, you know.
Hmm. It really makes it a whole lot easier for them. So definitely make sure you print it very clearly for them.
Yeah.
That's just common courtesy.
Hmm. And I don't know about you guys, but when the mechanical pencil came along,
Mhm.
now I have several of them, don't get me wrong, but I prefer the lowest I will go down is a number 9. I don't like the 5 or the 7 because I write hard and I can break the lead very easily. But my go-to lead that I really prefer, it is hard to find, so that's the reason why I will use a number 9. I prefer a 1.0 lead or even a
Oh,
1.1 if I can get it.
oh, it's
That's
nice
what I prefer to
too.
use. That's what I
That is
prefer.
very difficult to find.
Yeah.
I
So
do
when I
I do
find it, I
use
stock
the
up.
point 0.9,
Mhm.
and that's what I have, in my mechanical pencil that's over here.
Yeah.
I
That's what I
just had it
prefer.
a second ago. The I had it because I had the pen and pencil set. So
Mhm.
it's a pen and a pencil that match, and the top comes off of it where the eraser is. So I do agree with you. I prefer a thicker lead. Now
Mhm.
I prefer these over everything.
Oh yeah, I'll take a wooden pencil any
Hmm.
day of the week. And
Yeah,
I love looking for pencils. I would
love this.
try to keep ones that had cute little things printed on them. For
Oh
a
yeah,
long time, there was a bookstore. I mean, a teacher store in that one
the
has snowmen on it.
snowman.
Yeah. Uh, there's a teacher store in San Angelo, and I know it's still there. But since they were the owners that had it were very religious, they always had pencils with little Bible verses
Oh, I
printed on
love
them.
that.
Oh my goodness, they really couldn't keep them in stock, especially at the first of the year. I mean, right before school. So every time I'd go into San Angelo, I would try to run by there and pick up. You could only buy them in a bundle of 10 at a time. And the closer it got to school, they had to start limiting so that everybody could have some. So every time I'd go in during the summer to for a um, continuing education seminar or something, I'd run by there and try to pick up a couple of packs so I'd have them at the beginning of the year.
Well, that's why I
Uh,
like to go into conventions because I would always go get all the free pencils.
yes, yes, yes. And I always got the ones that were printed with cute little Halloween things, pumpkins and ghosts
I
and stuff like
love
that.
those.
to give out to the little kids that would come through our classrooms for trick or treating during the day. Yeah, they always got pencils. Not that they were ever upset about it. Teachers were always like, "Yes, more pencils." Jay says, I usually use a 0.7 millimeter lead for mechanical pencils, but for cursive, I use a 0.5 lead. So it makes me take my time to make sure it's legible and properly written. Well, my daughter loves the thinner lead.
I
She
don't.
loves 0.5, 0.7, okay. But she feels like, because again, like I said, she's left handed.
Yeah.
And she finds that the thicker the lead, the more smear for her, because like
Yeah.
I said, and she does write properly. She wasn't taught to write like this. She does write properly.
Right.
So yes, this part of her hand will rub across what
Yeah.
she's writing. So, but yeah, and mechanical pencils now come in all different designs. This one is my least favorite because you can now the nice thing about it is you can roll the height up and down of the eraser
Oh,
itself. But I find that when I turn it over to erase,
oh,
unless you just do a stroke like this, it will either turn it
oh
one way or
no.
the other. Yeah, so I
I wouldn't like that.
no, in fact, I think this is the last one of a packet that I bought a few years ago without realizing this was the one I bought, and I don't like it. But Bic has a very nice, this one is a number 9. It is an HB number 2,
Mm-hmm.
uh, but it is a 9 millimeter. I love it, but this truly is my favorite. Um, it has the little rubber cushioning down here, and it is a little, which makes it a little thicker, which I
Mm-hmm.
do like. And of course, you click it to have the lead come out. And this one here happens to also be a number 9. I don't think I have any of my 1 points out right now. But oh, I loved when they invented the click eraser. Pental does.
Yes.
Man, I loved it when this was invented. Now you were talking about the clicking.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't realize I was doing this, but I remember sitting in a calculus class in college and doing this when I was taking a test. When I was taking a test, and the professor would always walk around, and just check on us to see how we were doing and give us a little bit, you got 15 minutes left and da 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 da. And I was sitting there doing this while I was concentrating. He came by and put his hand over mine, and I looked up and he went, shh. Oh. So I had to physically make myself put the eraser down so I wouldn't be sitting there doing.
Oh my goodness. That's
And then,
funny.
when I, of course, had my own students and they found these erasers, I would have a student doing that and I'd start to giggle, but they would look up, and I'd go, don't do that. Don't do that. Oh, okay. And so I would have to tell them, I had a professor and the little story behind it. And I said, so if you find yourself doing this, the best thing to do is just put it down on your desk so you don't.
That's funny. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
It was embarrassing at the time, but now I can laugh about it,
Oh, yep. Were you going to do a devotional?
Oh, yes, I was. I'm so sorry.
It's all
Sitting
right.
here fun talking about pencils and yes. Now, wonderful one to start out the week with, folks. And I'm not saying any of us do this, but a gentle reminder: judge not. Let us not judge one another anymore, but rather resolve this: not to put a stumbling block or cause to fall in our brother's way. That comes from Romans 14:13. I love Paul's writings. There is a fine line that separates an opinion from a judgment, and it's a line we must not cross. We can have opinions about the styles of music we listen to or our favorite foods to eat, but when we begin to judge others about their taste, we can wound another brother or sister in Christ. The early church in Rome had fallen prey to passing judgment on members with regard to food, a non essential matter in the Christian faith. And Paul told them to stop. As Paul writes, for the kingdom of God is not eating and drinking, but righteousness and peace and joy in the Holy Spirit. Christians are free to form different views about matters of faith and practice that are not fundamental to Christian orthodoxy, such as diet, and in the case of the church, and as was the case in the church in Rome. But we must not judge one another. Our unity in Christ is to be undisputed. Yes, there will be judgment, but it will be by the word of Christ, not by the word of man. So if you have been judged by others, wait patiently for Christ to put things right. But if you have judged others, seek to be forgiven. Augustine was once quoted as saying, in essentials, unity; in non essentials, liberty; but in all things, charity.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I
That was
love
really
how every once in a while a devotional will just pop out at you and give you food for thought, because I know we all do it. We judge one another for sometimes the silliest things like food or the clothes that someone wears or the way they talk, even their political or religious opinions. But that's not for us to do. It's
no.
hard. It's hard to not do it. I mean, because it's a human condition, so to speak. But yeah,
Yeah. Well,
judge, least not you be judged.
how about
Some words.
a word for today would be persnickety.
Ah, I know that one.
Persnickety. Persnickety. Persnickety is an adjective. It is American English, late 19th century. There's two definitions. The first, placing too much emphasis on trivial or minor details,
Yep.
fussy. The second, requiring a particularly precise or careful approach.
Mm-hmm.
Example in a sentence: my cat sleeps all day, but when she wakes up, she's persnickety and needs me to fix her food and water immediately.
Yep.
That sounds very familiar to me.
Mm-hmm.
Our our next word of the day is factoid.
Yep.
Factoid. Factoid. Noun, American English, 1970s. Two definitions. The first, a brief or trivial item of news or information. The second, an assumption or speculation that is reported and repeated so often that it becomes accepted as fact.
Uh-huh.
Example in a sentence: despite the popular factoid, it is not dangerous to drink soda and eat Pop Rocks. And I know, but people believe that.
I know, but that is funny.
It's like crazy that people actually believe that.
Uh,
So, today in history for March 30th, in 1981, President Reagan is shot. And
oh wow.
by the way, that was from a drifter named John Hinckley Jr. In 1867, U.S. purchase of Alaska ridiculed as Seward's Folly. In 1971, Starbucks opens its first store in Seattle's Pike Place Market. In
Hmm.
2009, President Obama announces auto industry shakeup. In 1775, King George endorses New England Restraining Act. In 1939, Batman debuts in comics.
Oh
In
wow.
1974, John Denver has his first number one hit with Sunshine on My Shoulders. In 1974, the Ramones play their first public gig in Manhattan. In 1948, Henry Wallace criticizes Truman's Cold War policies. In 1949, actor Robert Mitchum is released after serving time for marijuana possession. In
Wow.
1814, Napoleon's forces defeated in Paris. In 1870, the 15th Amendment is adopted. In 1855, violence disrupts first Kansas election. In 1965, a bomb explodes outside of the U.S. Embassy in Saigon. Interesting. So we love a good quote on hope from the Dalai Lama. Remember that not getting what you want is sometimes a wonderful stroke of luck. Remember that not getting what you want is sometimes a wonderful stroke of luck.
Good morning,
And
Elaine. How are you?
hey, Elaine. And our last quote from for today is on happiness by Jean Antoinette Petit Scene. Not what we have, but what we enjoy constitutes our abundance. Not what we have, but what we enjoy constitutes our abundance.
Amen.
There we go.
You know, that first quote made me immediately think of Garth Brooks' song. I thank God
Unanswered
for
prayers.
unanswered prayers. Yep.
Yes. You know what? Some of God's greatest gifts are unanswered prayers
Isn't
because you
that the
just
truth?
don't
Yeah.
know.
Yep.
You really don't. But I hope you're doing well, Elaine. I am in a great mood today.
Yep. Yep.
It's always a good day. Now I
Well,
want to buy some pencils.
now you
I'm just
well, I,
saying.
I have to tell you that when I go into the store, I do love going down the school supply aisle.
I
And the
do.
first thing I look at are pencils and pens, erasers, even. I mean, I
Yes.
love, I would get cute little erasers, that were in the shapes of hearts
Yeah.
and, uh, just all different things. And I started um, when our kids had to do their standardized testing, their TOS and stars and all those different things. Um, I was at a school that always made sure, I mean, all the kids would get there and everyone, whoever was testing that day, everyone went to the cafeteria and sat down and had a good breakfast. And
Nice.
then halfway through the morning, uh, they would come through and they would leave bottled water and little brown paper bags that would have a cookie or some peppermint, chewing gum to keep the kids, hyper basically, so that they could stay refreshed and go on. Anyway, when I changed schools and it came time for that, I I asked, are we going to feed the kids, all this kind of thing, because I just kind of thought it was a thing that had been implemented. No, we don't do that. And I thought, wow. So I started doing it for my kids that were testing. I would tell them, now be sure you come by my classroom, wherever it is you have to go test, pick up your bottled water and your goodie bag. And in their goodie bag would be a pencil, a separate eraser. I started out with the pink ones, and then I
Mhm.
gradually changed over to kitty cats and puppies and hearts
Yes.
and clowns and just whatever I could do. Just something so that if just something for them to look at, and be happy about. And like I said, um, mechanical pencils were very popular, had already been established, and so I made sure they had a mechanical pencil rather than one they had to get up and keep sharpening. And then I'd put in a stick of bubble gum and several pieces of peppermint and Jolly Ranchers because
Oh,
peppermint, if y'all don't know this, peppermint is a good stimulator for your brain. It really is, especially if you have to focus and concentrate. Stick a piece of peppermint in your mouth. You'd be surprised what it does. So yeah, I still whenever I go into the store, I got to go down the school supply aisle and just look, and remember. Yeah.
I
But
do.
I do hope that you've all enjoyed today's topic as much as I have. I mean, the lowly little pencil, who would have thought would be given its own special day? But I'm really happy that it does. So I hope I
Oh,
gave you some information that maybe you didn't know before. You can keep it in your toolbox or dump it whenever you leave, just whatever. But anyway, a little bit of trivia there for you on the pencil. So, Froggy, if you'll start us off.
hey, if you're catching the replay, make sure that you leave a thumbs up and leave Maureen a heart or a wave and let her know that you were here. Stay safe, be kind to one another, and I'll be yarning. Love you guys.
Well, thank you all again for being here. Be sure you have Hobie Bingo turned on because remember, they jumped forward, so it's starting an hour earlier. I guess I could say it's back to its usual time. Anyway, hope to see you in the Hobie Bingo. If not, please always remember to be the light out there in the darkness for someone today because you never know. Could be your light they need to see. We love you guys, and we'll catch you tomorrow for bingo.
Bye.
Bye.